Good afternoon, Lucas Meadowcroft here from CROFTi, and I've got one of the co-founders of City Cave, Tim. Welcome aboard, mate.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
No worries, man. So I'm going to dive straight into it because I'm super excited to have you on this call. I know we've been, going back and forth over many, many months to actually try and tee up a face-to-face coffee date, and it hasn't quite gone to plan because we're both super busy people. And then COVID hit. So I'd like to actually start and go a bit of a backtrack before COVID when we were meant to actually meet up face-to-face. Give us a bit of a background, I guess, into City Cave, how it came to be, how you and your co-founder met and decided to launch the business.
Yeah, cool. It's crazy that we haven't been able to actually catch up in person, but the world's becoming a very small place now with platforms like this to be able to actually catch up on. I feel like I know you really well, even though I haven't seen you in the flesh in probably over a year and a half or something like that. But yeah, anyway, so City Cave Float and Wellness Centre is our brand. We're a franchise system. We founded the business in 2016 in June. We opened a little centre down close to our head office here on James Street in Fortitude Valley. And that was our founding location. And since then, we've built another company store from that site and now franchised to we've got 13 open and we've got another 10 in the pipe works that we're kind of working through at the moment, finding sites and things like that. So essentially, we specialize in flotation therapy, infrared sauna and massage, and we have membership categories for each of those different modalities. The brand City Cave represents, I guess the word city represents the overstimulation and the crazy life that we all live in. And then cave is your place of solace, your place where you can kind of rest, repair and relax before venturing back out into the real world. Flotation therapy was originally founded in the 70s over in America from a neuroscientist called John C. Lilly. And it's essentially based around calming down your mind so much in a sensory deprivation environment to then let your body kind of rest and recover. And you're in a float pool with 400 kgs of hospital-grade Epsom salts, helps elongate your spine and things like that. You kind of just float effortlessly on the surface. So we started off creating City Cave as a one-off centre, and we were just doing flotation therapy. Since we opened the doors, we found that we were getting a lot of clientele that were coming to us from a physio or a nutritionist or a massage clinic or something like that. And we found that it was better to try to bolt on a few of those different modalities so people can kind of call us a bit of a one-stop shop for preventative health. And then it's since then progressed into the big beast that was our second location, which was 3 times the size. We've got 7 practitioner rooms there with nutritionists, acupuncturists, psychologists, counselors, massage therapists, float therapy, infrared sauna, and massage. So it's a big beast. And then to try to find like a happy medium to be able to franchise, we needed to create a nice, comfortable system that is very easy to replicate and be able to train somebody up to run a centre. So we kind of landed somewhere in between of our initial site, our first and second site, and then went to market to franchise from there. We found that float therapy, sauna, and massage were the 3 strongest categories. So we've kind of stuck with those areas. And as we move forward, where our business model is designed to pivot, if we ever find something else that's an experience-based preventative healthcare, then we can bolt that onto each City Cave in the future. We're fairly flexible when it comes to any changes in the market.
Yeah, I was about to say that you obviously did a lot of market research around what works well, especially going down the franchise world can either be make or break for any organization, and so finding that happy medium, it sounds like was key. Where did the concept is amazing, and you're growing rapid fire, especially up until COVID. Anyway, I'd love to hear during COVID. How did you and your business partner decide to get this was the thing that you guys wanted to do?
It's a good question, and it's the ultimate question that everybody kind of asks themselves. What do I want to do? Where do I see myself in 20, 30, 60 years? And we actually both come from a construction background, and then we moved into retail, but we were just finding, and again, I'm going to go a little bit hippie here, but we were finding like we weren't getting our soul food. I didn't see myself wanting to be the retail guy for the rest of my life, and my business partner is 100% the same. We've always been really into health and fitness, and we feel like the fitness industry is very saturated at the moment. Very hard to try and start a new brand. There's some great franchises out there to buy into and open, but when it comes to actually starting a concept and being the visionary behind creating a brand from the ground up, which was always our passion, we just found this space. It was very niche at the time. And what a lot of great Australian business models have done, they've kind of found an idea over in the States. America's like our kind of big brother in a lot of areas, probably not so much when it comes to their response to COVID, but with business, they're very, very good at different avenues over there. And float therapy has been going gangbusters over there for the last 5 to 10 years. The spike is huge, and we're only at the very start of that over here in Australia. So it was really key to try and find something that we could identify that rapid growth that we haven't seen here in Australia yet. We are the biggest float therapy.
I was just going to say, it sounds like you can really relate to it, because both being in construction and, working those stupidly long hours and being in the environment you're in, you kind of relate to something that you and your business partner wanted to have that release somewhere as well.
Yeah, 100%. And the first time I tried it, and for anybody that's watching, you've got to try it. It's amazing, and we'll chuck out a discount code there, a corporate deal for anyone that's on the other end of this meeting. So it was something that we found, and we just got a lot of value from it. So we walked out and decided. We both literally looked at each other on Queen Street in the city and just said, This is our business idea. Let's start researching. And we researched the pants off it for 6 months before deciding to sign our first lease and go from there. But like for us, there was a slight gap in the market where flotation therapy is a type of, I guess it's a style of meditation in a way. It's kind of like forced meditation. It's a way to just extremely relax your brain. And we were finding that it was being targeted and pitched to hippies more than anything. We call them hippies, mindfulness beings, people that kind of understand the benefits of meditation and yoga and Pilates and things like that. And myself and my business partner are both a little bit of each category that we market to. So we market to that demographic. I love yoga, meditation, stuff like that. The gym junkie, so anybody that does look after themselves, that spends a bit of money on their health and wellness in other areas. And then we have our biggest target market, and this was the market that has been missing with a lot of float centers across the country, is we call it the CEO, which stands for completely exhausted and overworked, which I think most people can relate to that category. So we've kind of made our business really appealing to all three of those categories. We want to be able to have somebody that has come from a yoga class that can sit in there with someone that's come straight from their job in the city, and someone can pop in after their workout. So yeah, that was our main defining difference.
I can definitely relate to the CEO analogy you're using. So I guess the first I heard about floating, it must have been close to 10 years ago. One of our clients at the time said he was going floating every week, and I had no idea what he was talking about. And he started talking about meditation. I was like, what world are you in? Like, it just didn't relate to me 10 years ago, right? Because it just wasn't, that's not where my mind was, I was learning about, foundations of business back then, not about how to look after yourself, because, in your 20s, you don't care about your health as much as you get a bit older. But then once I fell in love with meditation, once I fell in love with, understanding the human anatomy and how we can get peak performance out of ourselves, I went for my first float, and I was like hooked and addicted. And I've been like pretty much on your back and watching the health notices coming out throughout COVID, going, hurry up and open. When are you guys opening? Like, you get to the point that you're going every single week that you just like, I now miss it. It becomes a bit of an addiction because, you just get that release, and you just get to. It's like when I went this morning, and because I haven't been, it's been 3 months or something. Afterwards, I was like, that was like a forced hour in my own head, my own space. It's like not just about the floating, the meditation, and all the extra benefits you get. It's like just a forced shutdown for an hour. And I guess that's what you're relating to when you're talking about the CEO scenario. Yeah,
I think that you can't perform at your best if you're always on. Like, I mean, I work a lot. I'm always working, and I actually love what I do, so I'm not bothered about the time. But there's no point doing that if you're not running at an optimal level. And I think that kind of calming of the mind is something that's actually been around for generations. It's an ancient art form, is meditation and calming the anxiety and just day-to-day pressure. And we've got this huge spike in growth in our addiction to technology and like our fast-paced life now. The world's a really small place. Like after this call, I'm in a round table with some people over in the States, and like it's constantly one meeting to the next. You kind of don't have that time to, we call it disconnect, to be able to reconnect. And that's why in the middle of the day, we're normally fairly busy with a lot of business people that do want to try and get peak performance out of their day. There's no point the old saying, there's no point working harder, work smarter. It's ideal if you can do both and work really hard, but really smart. So we feel like flotation therapy is a bit of a tool for that. And obviously you do it a lot, and you're successful in your own right. It must be because of flotation therapy.
It all goes to floating. I think that right, because people, like, that's a really common saying, is finding that the happy medium or the work-life balance, and it just doesn't exist. Like when you're trying to scale and take over the world and really push the boundaries, you're all in. Like there's nothing else. And so you need to have this release that you're talking about, just to be able to bring you back down, get a bit of zen about yourself, so then you can actually give more and get more.
That's it. And back to your very first question about why we do what we do. We are getting that kind of soul food now. I have found this market and this business model and this brand that, it was an idea that we created, but everybody that's involved, from our receptionist staff right through to our franchisees, everybody else has helped make the brand what it is today. Actually, we are driving the ship, but everybody has put in their all to get it to this stage. And now I'm so thankful and happy with everybody else that's jumped on the bandwagon, because I can't see myself ever wanting to do anything else other than work within my company. And it's not because of ego or being too proud or anything like that. It just fits. It just feels right. So I think that's probably the main driver why we do what we do.
Yeah, nice. I've got a real good question, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong here. You have an opportunity, or you had, or you might still have an opportunity to do this thing on your own, to, you and your business partner, to scale Australia, to take it across the world, to really, push the boundaries and have it 100% your business. Why did you choose the franchise model?
That's a really good question. We get asked that a lot. I think we kind of toyed with the idea of franchising at the very beginning, and then we were super fortunate enough to meet a lady by the name of Kathy Rees, who is currently signing a lease this week on her second site. So she's going to be our first multi-site owner, and she was the first ever franchisee. And the relationship and business partnership that we have had with her, what's that?
So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is pretty exciting. So the relationship that we've had with her has really been a benchmark for us to want to replicate. We got to see what it was actually like opening a centre and then opening another company's centre within the 2-year period of the infancy of the first City Cave James Street. And it's difficult. As soon as you put all of your time and effort into the new location, the other one kind of does fall by the wayside a little bit. You need to grow and scale to a certain point where you can then have a head office that can start looking after all those people. And we've just found that in the early stages, and still to this day, we don't spend any money on marketing our franchise system, or we have a very, very low budget. Everything has been really organic up to this point. So from 13 to 20, we'll still be staying in that kind of world, just partnering with the right people and putting more emphasis on how people find us more than what sort of marketing spend we can throw out there to try and attract people. And during this organic growth, we've fell in love with it, and it's a massive win-win. So it's actually a win-win-win, because for us, the customer gets a perfect experience from an owner that is a franchisee of the brand, and then our brand grows, gets bigger, so we know that the customer is looked after at the end of the day. That's what this whole business is about. It's about that human interaction on the front line of any city cave, and we felt like the most secure way of growing a brand worldwide is to partner with the right people. And we just chose the franchise route other than getting private equity from somewhere or funding it ourselves. And it's been a hell of a ride. Like for the last 2 years, we've opened another 11 sites with franchise partners. And it's amazing having that kind of high level business owner within our brand. Now, it's a franchisee-franchisor relationship, but it's very level. It's a really level playing field. We're advised from the franchisees on the front line of what's actually going on, and then we bring that and absorb that up into head office to try and create solutions and things for. So I think we just really enjoyed the mutually respectful environment that franchising offers. Yeah.
So was it based on this initial this one lady that you got on board? It's kind of like taking a bit of gamble, right? You're like, I'm passing my baby onto this first franchise, kind of like diving into the system. How long before you took on the next one after her? Because obviously she's diving back in for a second round now.
Yeah, look, I think it was fairly quick. We kind of had her and a customer who has now opened City Cave over in Mount Gravatt. They were at very similar times. So we were able to, obviously with building a franchise system, there's a lot of time and resources and capital that has to go into building the foundation, the documentation and everything around franchising, trying to have things in place to protect the brand and whatnot. So having two in at one time gave us a little bit more capital to be able to make sure that we were doing that correctly. And then from there, again, like I said, it was very organic. Some months we would have 10 inquiries, some months we have 100, and we're just trying to work on filtering through that to make sure that we're partnering with the right people. It is absolutely critical to our success and our franchisees' success to make sure that we're vetting people correctly on the way through. So we haven't, up until this point, we haven't been chasing a number. We haven't been chasing a targeted number of franchises to open, but we've just happened to do reasonably well anyway because of the organic way of attracting those leads. Going into 2021, that will differ a little bit because we are starting to set some pretty strong goals. And that'll just be essentially more work on the vetting process and making sure the right people are ending up with a City Cave in their hands.
Is it going to be like boundary? I guess no. Well, let's chat on the future next. I want to stay on this franchise conversation. So we, when we chatted, I think it was before Christmas. It was a pretty big push to bring a lot more franchises. Obviously, then COVID hit. What happened? Like what the plan was versus what happened in March. And then how have you gone through that last 3 months?
Yeah, so whatever plan we had definitely got thrown upside down, got thrown on its head. So we kind of went into certainly not panic mode. We just went into solution focus mode. As you would know, there's no point talking about a problem if you don't already have the solution sorted out. So for us, we stopped all franchise fees for our franchisees to help mitigate their costs. We tried to obviously find as many ways that we could create savings from the cost perspective because revenue literally went to zero. So we spent 9 weeks with the doors absolutely closed. And a lot of our franchisees are first-time business owners. So there was a lot of lots of communication, which is essentially one of our core values is communication. So we just really ramped that up during that period. And yeah, it was such a bizarre time. The really bizarre thing is that we still had a lot of franchise inquiries. I think that I would put a lot of that down to people losing faith in their safe job that they have. A lot of people think having a job is the safe way to go, whereas when you own a business, especially a franchise, you're in control of your own finances, so you can kind of ride through a lot of those times. It was really good for us to be able to go through this period so early in our business. With 13 sites, yes, it was manic, and we were at battle stations trying to mitigate any issues whatsoever during that period. But at least now we have a storybook to say, hey, when COVID hit, this is how we reacted. This is how we responded. We had a huge marketing campaign coming into back into trade, which was we called it the COVID Care Pack. Essentially what that did was it launched out to our whole database and said, we don't discount, we don't like discounting our services. We're a very high-end product and a unique service, but we kind of went out there to market to say, if people want to buy packs, then we're offering it at a really crazy cheap price just to help support your local business owner. And it was massive. We got such a great response from the community. The first day where we opened our doors last weekend, we were just absolutely flooded, and we've been booked out ever since. And again, trying to align the flushing back into the market with a big influx of franchise inquiries. So kind of we're just juggling all of that at the moment on the other side of COVID. But during, we were very much in like absorb mode, just bringing in issues and trying to create solutions on the other side of it.
Being a physical retail type of presence, was the main cost for all the franchises the rent for their property, or like, because I'm assuming all staff are casual, so the overheads from a wage perspective would have been low, but the rent would have still been there. Was that the toughest thing to navigate through?
Yeah, rent 100%. And it didn't really help having the code of conduct was obviously wasn't legislated until recently. So that made it made a really blurry line for a lot of people. To be honest, again, very fortunate. We do have some great landlords in the brand that were able to come to the party. We saw some amazing relief above and beyond what the actual what the code of conduct suggested. So we're really thankful to those guys for helping out all of our franchisees with that. There's obviously the smaller things like power, phone, all of our subscriptions. Each City Cave runs lots of subscriptions like Xero and our booking system, and Deputy, which is our rostering system and stuff like that. So that stuff was reasonably easy to sort out because we have group buying power with a lot of those suppliers. So yeah, it was definitely a really bizarre time, but I think you can take some form of solace in the fact that everybody was going through it. As you know, when you're starting out in business and you're doing it tough on your own, you never feel as lonely as you feel in a startup business doing it on your own. And again, that's another reason why franchising it just felt so right, because I love that initial part of business, and especially one that I know so well because I've done it myself. I love that initial kind of ups and downs and the roller coaster of emotions that new business owners get. And we really try to offer a lot of support and communication during those periods. And I find it a lot of fun, and still trying to mitigate the emotional stress that comes with starting a business, even a franchise. I mean, our franchisees are still independent business owners. So, and we do want them to go through some form of ups and downs to build up their own resilience. But it's fun knowing on the other side what they're going to earn, what their ROI is going to be, because we're absolutely obsessed with our franchisees' profitability. So like for us knowing, and there's a lot of laws around franchising here in Australia, which is great. There's laws around not being able to give projections to a franchisee and things like that. So we can help them model out their own business model off communication that we're allowed to engage with. But we know what the true story is going to potentially look like, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, nice. I definitely relate to what you're saying. Is you just got to jump on in. And I remember having at least 100 video calls with all our clients just to make sure that they're going to get through this. And it sounds like you would have been in the exact same situation, jumping on and having all these calls with 13 franchises pretty much every day, just to not so much hold their hand, but pretty much hold their hand through throughout the journey. That's every business has gone through it. I love the point that you make around that we're all in it together, because you're right. As a business owner, when you're going through the shit, you put all the responsibility onto you because it's your fault, right? And that's how we see it. But when the whole world goes through a situation like this at the same time, you can kind of like put that aside and go, actually, it's not my fault. It's now you can actually think proactively and not barrel down into something you don't need to. So it's good to I guess have that situation that you're in, especially with the other 13. So all 13 are still in operation. No one had to shut their doors. There was no major devastation around that. Perfect. Awesome. Love to hear. Been some shitty stories I've heard over the last few months. So it's good that you're able to get through it.
Yeah, I think safety in numbers, we're all in it together, and even like, again, relying and leaning on our franchisees in a lot of situations. We've got franchisees that own a lot of gyms. We've got people that aren't multi-site franchisees yet in our brand, but they are in other companies. So it was really good to be able to share a lot of stuff with them and bounce ideas off them and find out what other companies are doing, how we can do it better. things like that. We have spent a bit of time over in the States over the last couple of years. We are going to be taking City Cave over there at some stage within the next 24 months. And we were able to bring their expertise into our brand too. So having round tables with people on a really high level that our franchisees wouldn't be able to sit with normally. One in particular, we met her when we were over at the IFA convention last year, which is the International Franchising Association conference. And she was the ex-CEO of Subway Global, biggest franchise system in the world. She's actually the sister to the founder of Subway. 44,000 sites they have around the world. And she gave us an hour of her time to sit there and have an interview with me and Jeremy with all of our franchise system in front of it. Like it brought on a really nice sense of camaraderie and just togetherness, without sounding too cheesy. But really good.
You got to bring your franchises along for the ride. Normally that's not the situation. Like when you go to these amazing, and I get this all the time, like you go to these amazing events and you meet these amazing people, your team don't get to experience it. It's just you that gets to experience it. So that's really cool that you're able to do that with all your sites.
Yeah, no, we're absolutely wrapped.
So you head down into this franchise system now. Let's think about moving forward. Do you class yourself then as a sales and marketing organization now?
No, look, I think there is an element of it, and there's also an element of tech. There's an element of absolutely everything coaching. We have in-house business coaches now that coach our franchisees. Sales is a hard one. It's been a hard one to let go of because that's still the control that we have in a way of protecting other franchisees that are already open, that have put their heart and soul into their business. So marketing and sales and branding, that stuff's super important at a center level. But when it comes to the franchise system itself, we're not heavily going down that road just yet. We will be in the future, but just not yet. We're still in our infancy. We don't want to explode too much in the early stages. We're still building that really solid foundation. Like, we're not perfect. There's lots of areas that we can make better. All of our franchisees are really profitable and happy in their business, but until we get everything kind of perfect, we're just not really willing to just turn the tap on at this stage.
Yeah, cool. And you do know that you never will be perfect. So it's good that you've got a good community around you to try and strive for that perfect, because as entrepreneurs and business owners, we're always striving for the next big thing, right? The next best perfect, whatever that perfect looks like.
Yeah.
It's a really good community, which is amazing because you're all supporting each other. All right, talk to me about marketing. So you did this big marketing campaign to I guess relaunch, and I was one of the people that jumped on straight away. As soon as I saw it, I was like, yep, buying my 5-pack just to kick off and get going. I didn't need to because I already had credits in the system, but I knew it's just a good opportunity. I'm really curious, how does that work when you do have a franchise model? You've got 13 locations, you're doing it from a head office perspective, this marketing campaign. Do you then farm out the different numbers to the transactions to the different sites?
Yeah, for sure. So it all is targeted to everybody's database. We've got nearly 100,000 people on our database throughout all of the locations. And the first thing that when you follow a link that we promote, everybody promotes it on their own socials. And people, when you purchase an item, your account that you've been, like in your scenario, you've obviously already been into a City Cave before. You're a member of City Cave James Street, so the income goes to that centre and vice versa. And we've found a lot of the time the allocation of funds, which is all done automatically to that franchisee, reflects on trading time. So James Street is half the size of Paddington, but it'll turn over more because of how many people have been there in the past, because the marketing campaigns are targeted at their market. So it gives somebody the opportunity to follow the prompts and sort of head down the rabbit hole of sales to end up popping out at their desired location.
Yeah, cool. So I know that I can use my, I call it credits. I don't know if there's a proper terminology for it, but like what I've got ready to go for any floats that I want to use. Sorry?
They're called fledits, float credits. That's an internal thing right there. That's an internal secret right there.
I'll leave you guys with that one.
Okay.
Any site, right? And so that's, I guess, how you want to keep doing it moving forward?
Yeah, at this stage, yes. We allocate funds. So for us, we'll take another City Caves member, and we will take their credit if they have one at a different location. That gives us the opportunity to then upsell our centre to that customer to try and obviously gain their business in future.
Yeah, I just love that idea, and I really hope it sticks and stays that way. Because when we're allowed to do travel again and going to Sydney and Melbourne, it means I'll jump into one of the centres down there and have a float when you're on the back of a business trip. And so I think that would be awesome if that is something that you're looking at keeping into the future.
Yeah, I think I've always been a big fan of the word reciprocity, being able to give without waiting for something to be received. And we run that across our brand where I'm going to use City Cave James Street as an example. If somebody came in from Sydney and they had a credit, they'll use their credit down here, which means the franchisee in Sydney, they gained the original income. But on our side of things, that's a cost. But our cost margins are very low because it doesn't take there's no one actually taking the therapy. You're in a room, you have a towel, a little bit of power and things like that. As a company, I'm willing to absorb that cost because I know that you in Sydney are going to look after my clients in the same way. There is a rule of thumb where if somebody visits a centre 3 times in a row, their credits then get transferred to that centre. It's kind of like an under 3 reciprocity rule across the brand. I like that idea because I've seen a lot of systems and a lot of brands create turmoil between franchisees when one owes another one money in some way, shape, or form. I'm sending you an invoice in Sydney at the end of the month for $150 because I looked after your client. Doesn't work like that with us. We feel like it should be pretty fluent. It's got to be the customer at the end user is the concern at the end of the day. They have to have a fluent transition across the brand wherever they are. In a perfect world, there would be one person would have a membership for one location, but the point of going to a brand and partnering with a brand is so you can use it in multiple locations.
This is all up front anyway in the original conversations, right? So when you bring on a new franchise or a franchisee, it's like, well, this is the system, this is what we've built, this is how we work, and this is why it works really well. If you don't want to be a part of it, then it tells you straight away who's good and who's not so good to join your community, right?
Yeah, 100%. And there's no better way to pressure test it than just continue to grow and expand. And at the moment, it's working exceptionally well, especially when we benchmark it against going down the other route. That may change in the future, but we won't. There's no point preparing for that now because it's currently working, and that can be something that might be implemented later on down the track. But it's something that we feel pretty strongly about at this stage.
So doors are open again now. I'm assuming that all your centres are flourishing with new customers, or at least the existing customers coming back. How do you keep up with demand?
Good question. At this stage, weekends are heavily booked. We're constantly booked out a couple of weeks in advance, which is the goal. Weekdays, we still normally have spots available the day before for somebody to book. I guess we will just keep churning people through, and obviously when we get a backlog where we just can't fit people in, we open another centre. So how we've grown our brand is we've segregated all of Australia into different territories, and we sell a territory to a franchisee. When that franchisee sits at 80% capacity for 6 months, then they are strongly encouraged to open a second site within their territory. The territories at the moment are very generous, and we are ideally wanting to partner with people that want multiple sites. Multiple sites doesn't mean going and purchasing another territory and going down a whole new area. It's about growing within your target market. So when your demand is that high, then we really want to open a second site. The original model, the big one that we've got over in Paddington here in Brisbane, that can take a lot of people, and it's taken a long time for us to get it to its capacity. With the franchise system, it's based smaller to try and hit that capacity sooner. And for example, let's use Bulimba, for example. The Bulimba territory has got close to 100,000 people in there, and we could build one of our big 500 square metre sites at one end of it. But we decided it would be a better strategy to be able to have a smaller one, and then when you get to capacity, open one up on the other side of your territory within that Bulimba postcode.
I do like that idea, and this is personal experience, I suppose. Going to James Street versus going to Paddington. James Street feels like it's very in and out. Like, I shouldn't use the terminology like fast food, but it's like you know, it's on tap. You can just use it as you need to. Where Paddington, it's more of a. I feel like you're going to a therapist and you're going to an actual day spa. It's a totally different feel, and you feel like that you can't just rush. You feel like you have to take your time. So I think there's two different experiences, right? And I guess depending on the location around the country and overseas, what that experience would suit for that particular demographic. But yeah, I love that you've put some thought into
To
this.
give you an idea, City Cape James Street's sitting on 140 square metres and Paddington's sitting on 400 square metres. So that's where that big defining difference is. But I would definitely encourage you to go check out some of our franchises. They're all the same. They're all around that 200 square metre mark, give or take 10%. And we put a really large emphasis on our design and architectural drawings on the front end to build that. We call it the chill out space. We want to make it really inviting. We have a tea station in the same place made out of the same products and materials. It's essentially the 200 square metre model is based off 3 float tanks, 2 infrared saunas, 2 massage rooms, 1 practitioner room, and then a chill out space of approximately 30 square metres. We've found that to be the kind of perfect sweet spot for one staff member to work at. You know, they have a 1 hour crossover every day. As soon as you put 1 more float tank in, you need to double your staff, which is another $2,500 of costs each week. So then you juggle the fact of, okay, we need to put another 2 in. Next minute, you've got a huge facility there that'll take a while to get full. We're still in a space where we are building demand. It's not like we've gone into a burger. We haven't created a new burger chain where people have burgers every day of the week. You know, we spend a lot of time and energy on marketing the public, and it's not that the demand's not there. It's just people aren't recognizing it yet. A large portion of society, but they will, and more and more people. I mean, look at our scale and our growth. It is matching the kind of client demand in general.
It's perfect timing, because think of, if you tried to do this 10 years ago, it's a totally different vibe and environment, because the whole meditation is becoming more mainstream. And that you can, obviously at the back of that, I probably shouldn't have used the terminology fast food before, sorry. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Jumping into float tanks, and I'm curious and to get your theory or opinion around this, because I've done both float tanks and also the float room. And I'm not sure what your model is, and it's up to you if you want to discuss or not. Going which direction and what adds more value, I guess, to you as a franchise, but also to the end user, me, the customer.
Yeah, look, that's a great question, and we get asked it all the time. Our flotation therapy rooms, we only use rooms now. They've been designed and trademarked by us. We sell them to our franchisees at a cheaper cost to what they would be able to get a pod for, and it's a far better product. Look, when we entered into the market, I explained before how we spent a lot of time kind of researching and developing the therapy itself and trying to figure out how we could make it better to scale it. We started off with 2 pods and 2 pools as kind of like a test for the market for the first 12 months. Pods, you do definitely get some diehards that love closing the door on themselves in those sort of really close capsule style pods. But we found that most of the public are drawn to the float pools. You've got to play to your strengths, and on a commercial basis, the float pools were a no-brainer. We also get to put 2 couples in there. We've designed them to be able to have 2 people. We charge $89 for a couple's float, as opposed to $54 as our membership rate for a single float. The only difference is we're putting an extra towel in the room. The filtration system obviously picks up the rest. And essentially it brings up our average price of a customer coming through the doors by offering that. We're getting about 30% of our bookings are couples floats, and it's just a much better environment. So the biggest feedback that we were getting, mainly from a huge part of our market, which is females, we have 73% of our market is females. And from that, we found that a lot of people, we had a questionnaire that went out were alluding to the fact that they were claustrophobic, so getting into the pod style environment. So straight away we're going, well, 70% of our market, we've got about 30% of those people are terrified to get in these little pods. So let's design and create our own ones for a commercial purpose. Those pods, again, are designed for one person in there. The water gets filtered from a filter system that sits in the room with a pod. Ours, we build like proper functioning filter rooms in between the float rooms. So it's away from the float pool. Each filter can handle the same sort of capacity as a 10,000 litre swimming pool. We only have 1,000 litres in each float pool. So we've just tried to develop that to what it is today. And we feel like that part of the business, although it will no doubt develop in the future, right now it is as best as we could possibly make a flotation therapy environment. It's spot on to what our customers want.
Super cool. That's really, I love the technical, because I've always thought about it. I've never actually had the chance to, or I wanted to when we caught up for coffee. Now we're doing it now. So I can't hop in a pod anymore is what you're saying. The pods in your particular environment are now gone.
Yes, that's correct. So we do have infrared saunas down at James Street. So again, based off the model that I was talking about before, the 3 float pools, the 2 infrared saunas, the 2 massage rooms and the prac room, that is what every city cave has in it now, apart from our 2 company locations. We are changing, we're moving James Street. I'm sorry to tell you, but it's going to be moving. But it's still in the same territory. It's very close to your office anyway. And it's going to be the updated franchise model. It's 200 square meters of a beautiful, perfect city cave based over here in Newstead. So get excited for that.
Yeah, well, that's even walking distance to my house, so I can't really complain.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
It's all about me anyway, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, cool. That's really interesting, because when I originally did all the pods, and I think it was only, I don't know if I did many pools back then when you first launched, I felt like I got a more heightened experience. I don't know if that was because I was new to the whole environment or not, but I felt like I was more on the meditation level. I definitely went to a different world compared to the pools. Is that actually a thing?
Yeah, look, it's not. The new designed float rooms are designed to mimic the pod environment perfectly. They're fully soundproof, light-proof, all of that sort of stuff, as best that we can make them. The pod, there is a market for pod-style float centres, but it's a very small market. You don't get a better experience out of it. It's just, again, your experience at City Cave James Street. Those float rooms have since evolved into what the franchises offer today. And again, when you first try it, the rule of thumb with float therapy is you need to go 3 times to really experience it properly. And I mean, for me, it was 1 time and I was all in, obviously. But for some people, it takes up to 3 times. So your first couple of times, you still would have been in awe about the whole thing. It's it's a new kind of experience. You're in there. It's completely pitch black. You're kind of floating around effortlessly on the surface of this water. Your brain's going, what the hell is going on? I can't feel anything. The air temperature is the same temperature as your skin, the same as the water. So you've kind of got the zero gravity feeling. It's weird. It feels bizarre, but it's exciting. So once you get used to that, that's when you start becoming more calm in that environment. You come in next time, you flick off the lights, you jump in there and you're just out straight away. But the more, there's stories of people hallucinating in there, seeing different colors. Like, they'll come out and say, oh my God, I can't believe all those purples and reds and yellows were kicking around in the room. And it's like, mate, there's absolutely no way that actually happened. That was your brain playing tricks on you. So lots and lots of different experiences for different people. And even for me, sometimes I'll go in there thinking that I'm just going to drop out and relax straight away. But I call it a business meeting with myself. I'll go in there and I'll be on the whole time. I'm very much on the ball, thinking about certain things, categorizing things that I need to sort out when I get out of the float pool. And then other times I'll be in there and the music will come on and it'll be like I've been woken up because you've been in that kind of creative theta state. So, it's super hard. And this is the hardest thing when trying to sell a product. It's hard because we don't want to give people expectations before they go in there. People need to kind of take whatever their body needs from the experience. And
I can totally relate, because different experiences every time I go. But at least the 2 different experiences. Now, you talk about the brand being the 3 pillars, right? You got the floating, the sauna, and the infrared, I guess you call it. And is it as a massage therapy? Is that a focus, or is it mainly just the other 2?
Yeah, for sure. Massage is a big category for us. So we have membership categories for all 3. we track and report on each 3 individual categories separately each month to work on, where certain centers need to be putting a lot of their time and energy into. Massage, again, there's some great franchise systems in America that have got franchises based around just massage. One in particular is Massage Envy. They haven't worked very well here in Australia. I think the branding's really off for the Australian market, but it's gone very well. They have over 1,000 sites in America, and they are just that one component of our business. There's other flotation therapy franchises around the world, which take up that. And then we have lots and lots of sauna franchise systems coming out. Hotbox in America have got, I think, over 1,000. There's a company called Sweat over there that are growing like crazy. We've bought the 3 different models and 3 different modalities in under the one roof. And kind of, in a way, we manage them all separately to a certain extent.
Is floating still the number one? Is that what you're still, I guess, seen as in the market?
Yeah, for sure. Floating is about 55% of our revenue. Sometimes more. Sometimes we can see it getting up to around that 60%. I think our flotation experience is different to what anybody else is doing in the market because it's more inviting. It's more of a place that people want to go to. They get excited about going to it. The pods, people have a few more reservations about going to something like that. Again, we've really tried to steer away from that clinical white look. You walk into like a medical center or a lot of these float therapy places where it's dark white and uncomfortable chairs. We've tried to make it very earthy. We bring into a lot of earthy stuff into each center, which is like darker colors and stone and timber and certain lighting and to create moods and things like that. So we're a little bit different on that front.
Yeah, cool. Love it. Thanks so much for coming on board, man. I really appreciate this conversation. It just enables me to not just have this, I guess, relationship-based conversation around what's happened in your particular life around, City Cave, but also I love the technical side of it because I just, when it comes to meditation and self-well-being, I just love learning about this shit every day. It's pretty awesome. Final question or statement, and take this for a couple of minutes or for as long as you like. We're past COVID now, kind of, at least in Queensland. What does your world look like over this next 6, 12, 18 months? I'm assuming your head's now in the franchise space, bringing on more franchisees. Fill us in.
Lots of stuff, lots of exciting developments that are happening. During COVID, we were able to work on we always have the same as you and a lot of business owners would have is a nice to have pile. We've been able to chip through that during COVID, and we've developed some really cool stuff. Like we've got a new online training platform that we weren't going to be launching until 2021. We've just launched it to our franchisees. There's a couple of things that we need to tweak on that, but that's essentially taking the whole boring ops manual that is a franchise. You have to provide an ops manual, which is a business in a box. We've now put that, it's now online with online modules and things like that. It's a really interactive environment. There's really good courses on Xero, which is our accounting software that we use, some marketing tips. And there's actually over 70,000 resources on this platform. It's really cool. But we were able to just drop that, which means that we can really focus on some franchise sales for the second half of the year to pick up the big downfall that we had during COVID. So
right? Once you've got all that stuff automated and systemized, you can scale a lot easier.
Yeah, there is some, and it's kind of what I was talking about before, where we're not ready to turn the tap on until the actual system and foundation can handle it. So COVID, in a way, and I hate saying this, but it was actually a blessing for us in some ways because we have some really high-level people in our head office here that would normally be working on coaching or sales or different environments, different avenues of our business. They were able to jump in, and we were all wearing development hats during that time. So that was an exceptional time, and I'm going to look very favorably on it in the future because it has, in a weird kind of way, sped up our growth. I'm in Sydney tomorrow. We've got 4 sites that we are looking at opening down there. We've got the 4 franchisees ready to go. We're just trying to find that perfect site. So I'm down there from Thursday till Monday, which I'm really excited about. I just love spending time with our new franchisees as well. And then from there, the world's our oyster. We are looking at doing a pilot store in Queenstown over in New Zealand. So we are heading over there. As soon as I found out the borders are opening, me and some buddies, we've booked a snowboarding trip back down to Queenstown, work/snowboarding trip, mid-August.
I must have missed the notice. Did that just go wrong?
Yeah, it's in the mail.
Did the borders just open to New Zealand, did it? Did they just announce it?
Yeah, so I think it's the 13th of August, we've booked our flights for. Yeah, so I want to try and get a centre up and running over there. It'll be another company-owned centre. And then we've got an opportunity in Seattle at the end of the year to set up a pilot store. So going into these different markets like New Zealand or Canada or America, it is a fairly similar demographic to us. Purchase, I don't know, it's kind of more about, like, in general, people are fairly similar when it comes to consumer demand and what they're spending their money on. But until we've actually proven our model, I'm not confident selling a franchise over there. So we have had a lot of inquiries from potential franchisees in the States, but we can't do anything with them yet until we've actually traded a centre ourselves physically for a minimum of 12 months. So that's why we want to get one going over in New Zealand, and we'll get one potentially in Seattle by maybe not the end of the year. America's going to be a little bit harder. I'd say the borders are going to be closed for quite a while. And there's no rush on it. But again, we're working on developing the American arm in the background. So my mornings, I wake up at 5 o'clock every morning, and my first hour of every day is on development for America. So I'm on Zoom calls with attorneys and accountants over there, and different brands and people that work within different enterprises. So there's going to be a lot happening. The next 24 months of City Cave's life is going to be a hell of a good ride. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've got a lot of young, fresh energy in the brand, and a lot of really keen franchisees that have never been in business before, that are making more money than they ever dreamed that they'd done. So we want to try and coach them into growing their portfolio and things like that. So the goal here in Australia is 150 City Caves. Obviously, we're at 13 now. But we don't want 150 franchisees. So we want to try and encourage multiple site ownership if we feel like somebody's up for it.
Does that include yourself as well, opening more privately owned City Caves?
Yeah. Look, I would love to. I would love to from a business perspective, but I think when it comes to reality, because our sites are set on America and taking our brand global, it's almost not fair on the system if we go and put time and resources into opening other centres. I would rather, I will always own some form of company sites, probably one in each country. But when it comes to scaling that side of it at this stage, that's not on the cards for us.
Well, so like going to New Zealand or going into America, you will physically own your own one and test out the model first before getting a franchise on board.
Yeah, I think it's crucial because it only takes one centre to ruin the whole model. And I really want to be able to hang my hat on the same sort of reputation that companies like Orange Theory have, where they've opened 1,500 sites and they haven't closed one. We will be doing everything within our power to make sure that we have that same reputation.
At the end of the day, like, no one can pull the wool over your eyes, right? Because you've been there, you've done that, you know exactly all the intricacies or the ins and outs of everything that happens with that particular site. And so you go into a market that you've never done before, and apart from listening and learning from people, at least then you've got the experience to say, no, you're bullshitting me. This is the situation. Yeah. No, great. That's super smart.
Yeah, it goes back to that whole customer, the customer feel and the customer feedback. That's what'll dictate whether we can grow in certain areas in America or not. We just need to analyze that and absorb the data from a company, from a franchisor perspective, analyze it, and then make a decision from there.
Yeah, cool. Man, well, I want to say a massive thank you to both you and Jeremy for bringing the concept to Brisbane, to Australia, because being someone who's absolutely addicted to your brand and also what you guys offer, I know there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people globally. So you're supporting more than just what you think in the friend, or what you initially thought when you started the franchise model, to these millions of people around the world now. So thank you very much. Thanks,
mate. Thanks, Lucas. I appreciate the kind words, mate, and thanks very much for having me. I guess we'll talk soon. We'll try and have that coffee pretty soon.
Well, now the bar's open. I heard yesterday people are organising a beer catch up. That's a thing now. So yes, definitely.
Definitely be twisted for a beer.
All right, man. Peace. Thanks so much.
Catch you, mate.